At -40 degrees, your worst enemy isn't the cold, it's your sweat. Your modern winter coat is designed to trap heat. It does this perfectly. It also traps moisture, your sweat, your breath, your body's vapor. That moisture doesn't disappear, it condenses, it freezes against your skin. Water conducts heat 25 times faster than air. You're wearing a heat extractor, a thermal death trap, disguised as protection. Wyoming backcountry, experienced hiker, $400 synthetic parka, dead at -42 degrees Fahrenheit. Autopsy, core temperature 88 degrees Fahrenheit, hypothermia. Clothing status, outer layer dry, inner layers soaking wet. His sweat killed him. Not the cold, his gear. This isn't rare. It's the primary cause of cold weather death in equipped hikers. Modern insulation stops airflow, stops moisture escape, creates microclimate of death. Your ancestors understood this. Solved it 5,000 years ago. We forgot. Replaced their solution with synthetic failure. Called it progress. The physics hasn't changed. Water still extracts heat. Sweat still kills. We just stopped building clothing that handles it. The conductive death equation. Heat transfer happens 3 ways: conduction, convection, radiation. In extreme cold, conduction dominates. Direct molecular contact. Heat flowing from hot to cold. The rate depends on thermal conductivity, measured in watts per meter, Kelvin, watts per meter Kelvin. AR thermal conductivity, 0.024 watts per meter Kelvin. Air is an excellent insulator. Molecules are far apart. Heat transfers slowly. Your body generates 100 watts of heat at rest, 300 to 500 watts during exertion. Surrounded by still air, you can maintain core temperature even at -40 degrees Fahrenheit. The air creates a barrier. Water thermal conductivity, 0.606 watts per meter Kelvin. That's 25 times higher than air. Water molecules are dense, tightly packed. Heat transfers rapidly through direct molecular contact. Wet skin loses heat 25 times faster than dry skin in the same temperature. This is the death equation. Moisture against skin equals rapid heat extraction equals hypothermia. Your body generates heat. Sweat cools you by evaporation. This works in warm weather. In extreme cold with sealed clothing, evaporation doesn't happen. Sweat accumulates. The moisture condenses on your skin, on your base layer, saturates the fabric. That saturated fabric becomes a heat conductor, stripping warmth directly from your body. You start cold. Put on modern parka. Walk 1 mile. Exertion generates heat. You begin sweating. The sweat has nowhere to go. Your jacket is waterproof. Your insulation is sealed. Moisture accumulates. You stop walking. Exertion ends. Heat generation drops. Now you're wet. Stationary. The moisture conducts heat away. Core temperature drops. You try to warm up, but you can't generate enough heat to overcome conductive loss through wet fabric. Hypothermia begins. Not from cold air, from trapped moisture. The metabolic trap. Walking at 3 miles per hour in cold weather requires 400 to 500 watts of metabolic heat. Your body is 25% efficient. For every 500 watts generated, 375 watts becomes heat. That heat must be dissipated. Otherwise, core temperature rises. Heat stroke occurs even in cold. So your body sweats, produces moisture to cool down. At 3 miles per hour for 1 hour, you produce approximately 1 to 1.5 liters of sweat. In a breathable environment, this evaporates, carries heat away. You stay dry. In a sealed synthetic jacket, it condenses, saturates clothing. You become wet. Once wet, you cannot dry out without removing clothing. This requires shelter, time, heat source. In backcountry, you don't have these. You continue. Moisture accumulates. Death approaches. The ancient engineering, hollow hair physics. Indigenous Arctic peoples solved this 5,000 years ago. Before thermodynamics, before material science, they used caribou fur, specifically winter caribou, Rangifer tarandus. The fur has a structure modern synthetics cannot replicate. Microscopic architecture. Each hair is hollow, not solid. A tube with walls 10 to 15 micrometers thick. Interior, air-filled cavity. Diameter, 40 to 80 micrometers. Think of it as microscopic macaroni. Thousands of hollow tubes per square inch. This creates dual-phase insulation. Air inside the hair are to air between the hairs. Thermal conductivity of air, 0.024 watts per meter Kelvin. The hollow structure maximizes air content, minimizes solid material. A caribou hide has approximately 2,000 to 3,000 hairs per square centimeter. Each hair is 15 to 25 millimeters long. Each contains an air column. The total air volume approaches 85 to 90% of the material. Only 10 to 15% is keratin, solid hair structure. Compare this to synthetic insulation. Polyester fill, 50 to 70% air by volume. The fibers are solid. No internal air cavities. The caribou fur has 30 to 40% more air content. This means better insulation per unit thickness. But insulation isn't the primary advantage. Moisture management is. Moisture transport mechanism. The hollow hair structure is hydrophobic. Water cannot enter the hair shaft, but the hair tip has a different structure. Microscopic scales. These wick moisture. The water vapor contacts the hair surface. The scales transport it along the hair length toward the tip. At the tip, moisture releases into the surrounding air. The hair acts as a one-way moisture pump. This is capillary action combined with hygroscopic transport. The moisture moves from warm, skin side, to cold, outer surface. On the outer surface, the moisture flash freezes. Ice crystals form on hair tips. The ice doesn't insulate poorly. It's outside the thermal boundary layer. Doesn't contact skin. And crucially, the moisture is removed from your microclimate, extracted from the critical zone near your skin. You stay dry. The insulation stays effective. Heat loss remains minimal. Layering structure. Inuit didn't wear one thick layer. They wore two caribou layers. Inner layer, fur facing inward, skin side against body, on fur tips pointing away. Outer layer, fur facing outward, skin side inward, fur tips pointing away from body. This created an air gap between layers. The air gap was 5 to 10 millimeters thick. Moisture from skin traveled through inner fur, reached the air gap, evaporated into that space. The air gap ventilated through neck and wrist openings. Moisture escaped. Fresh air entered. The outer layer protected the air gap from wind, prevented convective heat loss. Total system, moisture transporting inner layer, ventilated air gap, wind blocking outer layer. This is engineered climate control. No zippers, no synthetic membranes, just hollow hair physics. Performance data. Modern testing of caribou fur clothing. University of Manitoba, 2015. Temperature, minus 40 degrees Celsius. Wind, 30 kilometers per hour. Subject walking at 5 kilometers per hour for 2 hours. The caribou clothing, inner layer moisture content 5 to 8%. Skin remained dry. Core temperature stable. Synthetic parka, Gore-Tex with synthetic fill. Inner layer moisture content 40 to 60%. Skin damp. Core temperature dropped 1.2 degrees Celsius. The Caribou clothing extracted moisture 8 to 10 times more effectively. Subject reported, "I didn't feel wet at all in the Caribou. The synthetic felt clammy after 30 minutes." This isn't subjective. This is measured moisture transport efficiency. Hollow hair beats synthetic by physics, not by chance, by structure. The ventilation architecture, chimney effect, moisture extraction requires two things: transport away from skin and escape from the garment. Caribou fur handles transport, but Inuit design handles escape. Modern jackets have sealed necks, elastic cuffs, drawstring hems, everything cinched tight. Or the goal, prevent cold air entry. This works. It also prevents moisture escape. Inuit design was opposite: deliberate openings, controlled ventilation paths. The chimney principle. Hot air rises. This is natural convection, buoyancy-driven flow. Your body heats air. That warm air is less dense. It rises upward. If there's an exit path, it flows out, carrying moisture with it. If there's no exit, it accumulates. Moisture condenses. You get wet. Inuit parkas had loose necks. No elastic, no drawstrings, just an opening. The opening was typically 40 to 50 centimeters circumference, large enough for head entry. Not sealed after. Warm, moist air from body rose through the parka interior, exited through the neck opening. Cold, dry air entered through the bottom hem. The parka was long enough, hip or knee length, that drafts didn't reach the torso, and this created continuous airflow, a thermal chimney. Moisture evacuated constantly. The rate was self-regulating. More exertion equals more body heat equals stronger chimney effect equals more ventilation. Less exertion equals less body heat equals weaker chimney equals less heat loss. The system adapted automatically. No zippers to adjust, no vents to open. Physics handled it. The hood design. Inuit hoods were oversized, not fitted. The hood created a large airspace around the head and neck. 5 to 10 liters of air volume. This airspace was the chimney reservoir. Hot air accumulated there, then escaped around the hood edges. The hood had a wolverine, or wolf fur ruff. Long guard hairs extended 15 to 20 centimeters from face. These hairs broke up wind, created turbulent boundary layer, prevented wind from driving into the hood. Your breath moisture exited through the fur ruff. Froze on the guard hairs, not on your face. The frozen moisture on the ruff could be beaten off, remained outside the thermal boundary. Modern hoods have tight openings, synthetic fur trim, decorative, not functional, and face masks or balaclavas. These trap breath moisture around your face. It condenses, freezes, creates ice buildup on the mask. That ice touches your skin, conducts heat away, causes frostbite on cheeks and nose. Inuit design prevented this. The oversized hood provided moisture space. The ruff provided moisture exit. Wrist and hem openings. Wrists had no elastic cuffs. Sleeves were loose. About 30 to 35 centimeters circumference for adult male. You could pull your hands inside if needed. This created a warm air pocket for hands. The loose sleeves allowed some air exchange. Not a draft, just circulation. Hems were long and loose. On no drawstrings. The parka hung freely to hips or knees. This prevented drafts from reaching torso. The length provided distance, but allowed air entry at the bottom. Cold air entered, warmed as it rose, exited at neck. Continuous cycle. Modern comparison. Modern jacket, sealed neck, elastic cuffs, drawstring hem. Zero ventilation unless you manually open zippers. Vapor accumulation inside, 15 to 25 grams per hour during moderate exertion. After 4 hours, 60 to 100 grams of moisture trapped. That's enough to saturate base layer and mid layer. Inuit parka. Natural ventilation through chimney effect. Vapor evacuation. Estimated 10 to 20 grams per hour. After 4 hours, 5 to 10 grams of moisture in clothing. This is equilibrium moisture, not saturation. The difference is design philosophy. Modern, seal everything. I'd rely on synthetic membranes to transport moisture. Inuit, ventilate naturally, use material structure to manage moisture. One requires you to manually adjust zippers every 30 minutes as activity changes. One adapts automatically through physics. No input required. The synthetic failure, Gore-Tex and membrane physics, modern outdoor industry markets, breathable waterproof fabrics. Gore-Tex, Event, Polartec Neoshell. The promise, waterproof exterior. Moisture vapor passes through. You stay dry. The physics, these are microporous membranes. Holes 0.2 to 10 micrometers diameter. Too small for liquid water to penetrate. Surface tension prevents it. Large enough for water vapor molecules. In theory, this works. Vapor diffuses through. Liquid blocks. In practice, it fails in extreme cold. Multiple reasons. But reason 1. Vapor pressure. Differential. Required. For vapor to pass through membrane, there must be higher vapor pressure inside than outside. Vapor pressure depends on temperature. Warm air holds more moisture. At -40 degrees Celsius, saturation vapor pressure is 0.128 millibars. At +20 degrees Celsius, inside jacket, it's 23.4 millibars. The differential drives diffusion. Moisture moves from high pressure, inside, to low, outside. But this requires the membrane to remain above freezing. If membrane temperature drops below 0 degrees Celsius, moisture freezes in the pores. Frozen pores equals blocked membrane equals zero breathability. In -40 degrees Celsius conditions, the outer surface of your jacket is -35 degrees Celsius to -38 degrees Celsius. The membrane freezes. Pores block. You're now wearing non-breathable plastic. All moisture is trapped. Reason 2. Condensation inside membrane. Even when membrane remains unfrozen, moisture condenses on the cold side. Your body produces vapor at skin temperature, 33 to 34 degrees Celsius. That vapor enters the membrane at high temperature. As it passes through, it encounters progressively colder material. Temperature gradient across membrane can be 50 to 70 degrees Celsius. Vapor cools, reaches dew point, condenses inside the membrane structure. This liquid water now blocks vapor transport. Further moisture cannot pass. The membrane saturates from inside. You get wet from your own transported moisture condensing. Reason 3. Insulation thickness. Problem. Gore-Tex membranes are thin, 0.01 millimeter. They must be combined with insulation for warmth. The insulation, down or synthetic, is on the inside of the membrane, between membrane and your body. Moisture from your skin must pass through 20 to 50 millimeters of insulation before reaching the membrane. Insulation slows vapor transport. The moisture accumulates in the insulation layer. Down insulation loses 50% of its insulating value when it reaches 15% moisture content by weight. Synthetic insulation loses 30% at the same moisture content. After 2 to 3 hours of exertion, insulation is compromised. You feel cold despite generating heat. Reason 4. Activity level. Mismatch. Membrane breathability is measured in laboratory conditions. Steady state, controlled temperature gradient. Real use involves varying activity. Walking, stopping, climbing, resting. During high activity, you produce moisture faster than the membrane can transport it. During rest, you produce less moisture, but also less heat. The temperature gradient decreases. Transport slows. The system never reaches equilibrium. Moisture accumulates during active periods and doesn't evacuate during rest. The cost of failure. Modern synthetic winter clothing costs $400 to $1,200 for complete system. Parka, pants, base layers. Expected lifespan. 3 to 5 years before insulation degrades or membranes delaminate. Lifetime cost. $2,400 to $6,000 per person over 30 years. Traditional Caribou clothing. Approximately $800 to $1,500 for complete system, if purchasing commercially. Expected lifespan, 10 to 15 years with proper care. Lifetime cost, $2,000 to $3,000 per person over 30 years. But the critical difference isn't cost, it's reliability. Synthetic fails in extreme conditions, creates moisture trap, causes hypothermia. Caribou performs better in worse conditions. Extracts moisture. Maintains warmth. One is optimized for marketing. One is optimized for survival. And the modern revival and reality. Some Arctic communities still use traditional Caribou clothing. Remote Inuit villages, trappers, traditional hunters. But availability is declining. Caribou populations are pressure. Hunting regulations restrict harvest. Commercial caribou clothing is rare. A few specialty makers in Canada and Greenland. Very limited production. Modern alternatives are being researched. Hollow fiber synthetics. Biomimetic insulation. Polartec Alpha Direct is one attempt. Uses hollow fibers. Designed for active insulation. Performance, better than traditional synthetic, still inferior to Caribou. The fiber structure isn't truly hollow, it's crimped. True hollow fiber production is expensive, requires specialized equipment, not economically viable at scale. So the knowledge exists, the physics is understood, and the solution is proven, but modern industry doesn't implement it. Cheaper to make solid fiber insulation, easier to manufacture. The result? Inferior products marketed as advanced. Real advancement abandoned for profit margins. What you can do? You likely cannot access Caribou clothing unless you're in Arctic Canada or Greenland, but you can apply the principles: ventilation, layering, moisture management. Principle 1. Loose layers. Don't seal everything. Wear loose-fitting layers. Allow air circulation. Your base layer should be wool, not synthetic. Wool remains insulating when damp. Synthetics don't. Mid-layer, fleece or wool. Again, these maintain some insulation when wet. Outer layer, wind-breaking but not sealed. A loose anorak, not a cinched parka. Principle 2. Active venting. During exertion, open neck. Pull up them slightly. Allow air exchange. You'll feel cold air momentarily. This is good. It evacuates moisture. When you stop exerting, seal up. Retain heat. But moisture is already evacuated. Principle 3. Layer management. Adjust layers with activity. High activity. Remove mid-layer. Prevent overheating. Low activity. Add layer. Maintain warmth. This is more work than just wearing one parka, but it prevents moisture trap. Principle 4. No cotton. Cotton kills. This is well known, but worth repeating. Cotton absorbs moisture, holds it against skin, provides zero insulation when wet. Thermal conductivity of wet cotton approaches water. You're wearing a wet rag, wool or synthetic base layers only, preferably wool. The bridge from clothing to weapons. You have shelter, earth-sheltered dugout, geothermal constant, free climate control. You have food, pemmican, 50-year shelf life, chemical stability. You have clothing. Now you understand moisture management, hollow hair physics, ventilation architecture, but you're still vulnerable, defenseless, dependent on modern tools that break. Next topic, weapons. Specifically, how medieval peasants created effective weapons from nothing. No steel, no forges, just materials found in any forest, longbows that penetrated armor, crossbows that killed knights, spears that stopped cavalry, made from wood, sinew, and knowledge. Weapons modern military cannot replicate in effectiveness per unit cost. The engineering of force multiplication, how weak peasants killed armored soldiers. This is the final piece. Shelter, food, clothing, weapons, complete independence, complete survival capability, no infrastructure dependency. Subscribe. The knowledge continues. Each video removes one modern weakness. Drop a comment. Tell me your coldest experience. Tell me if you've experienced the sweat trap. The revolution is physical, one principle at a time, one dependency eliminated. Your ancestors survived minus 40 degrees Celsius winters in fur and skin. You can barely survive with $1,000 of synthetic gear. The weakness is learned. The solution is knowledge. The path is physics. Welcome to thermal independence, one hollow hair at a time.